Hello and welcome to the CEO1440 Show, the Mortgage Broker Builder Show, where we break down loans, mortgages, all kinds of stuff with one goal in mind, and that is maximizing your 1,440 minutes every single day. We've got a guest here today that's diving into all kinds of data, weird stuff, big brother, looking into your business. But we got Jeff Londres with Stikkum. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, trigger bills, client stuff, a whole bunch of things. If you're in the mortgage space, real estate space, and you have close clients, you'd like to know what they're doing, this is for you. So Jeff, welcome. How are you?
Hey, John. Thank you, John. I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. No, super excited about this because it's a space that we get a lot of questions about. We have a lot of people trying to figure out what's going on. There's been a lot of noise out there. And you actually are somebody that came on recently. We've been using you in our own business and seeing positive results. Just a couple of weeks in, we've actually got loans in process, clients that we're engaging and stuff, all because of your tech. And was easy to put in place. And I said, this is something more people need to know about. So happy to have you here. Just the format too, wide open. Like you got something to say it. Most of the people that are listening are probably bankers, mortgage brokers, probably a handful of real estate agents, and that's kind of who our clientele is. Probably don't have any company with 5,000 loan officers there, so smaller people, and I think that's kind of the niche that you cater to anyways.
Yeah, exactly that, John. Exactly that.
You run a company right now that does credit monitoring, a bunch of different things.
Yep.
And you play right in that space with the trigger bills and all that. So yep. What's going on with the new trigger bill legislation and all of those fun things?
Yeah. So let's get into it, John. So just real quick from our context here, Stikkum is a platform that monitors customer behavior, right? We're looking to build the platform to be the epicenter of customer or client, quite frankly, also eventually prospect intent-based monitoring based upon their behaviors. Those signals are out there. It's there for the availability to those. You learn about it today, what Amazon is doing, what Facebook is doing, what Google is doing. That's what Stikkum is doing and bringing it down market now to everybody in the mortgage community to have accessible to that, all right? So that means when we're monitoring behavior, that's also behaviors that are physically happening from a client's perspective. We're connected to data centers and data partners that we feed off of to monitor this behavior. And lo and behold, one of those are the credit bureaus themselves. So very, very relevant of today, especially, quite frankly, probably the past year or two, on and off, heavily with the last 6 to 8 months, and now accumulating into law, right? That was the trigger bill, okay? So I don't think there's really a lender or a loan officer out there that doesn't know about that, what's been happening with that, and why it was a good thing that it was finally put in place, right? Obviously, in case folks don't know, right, the trigger bill we're talking about is the type of information and data gets when somebody's credit is pulled for a hard mortgage loan, right? John Jerkovich, your credit has been pulled. The opportunity for loan officers out there that has been there is that, I can connect to that with some other provider or whatnot, and I can get that lead. I can get that notification, okay? What's been happening over the past several years, as everybody knows, though, when someone that gets their credit pulled, right? They're blasted by 60, 70 text, emails, and everything else, right? Because that data has been sold to many different providers out there that then resell it out there. One, for customer retention, but then two, for open, cold prospect marketing. And I think that's where we saw a lot of the abuse that's been out there, right? Now, everybody probably also knows that it's been going through Congress. Yeah, I think the many really good supportive organization has pushed the bill through to where now the president has signed it, basically abolishing the use of that triggered type of data, right, for the particular folks that are out there, sources that are out there, unless you reside into one of the 4 carve-outs, right? So this is to do away with all of that abuse, all of that cold spam marketing that was hitting all of the consumers that are out there, right? The carve-outs are this, of course, if you are a servicer, if you are the loan originator or lender, I think there's 2 more out there as well too. Oh gosh, I forgot what the other 2 were, John, but those are the main ones that we've been looking at, right? And so when the trigger bill hits, which I think will be in effect probably in about 4 months now, because I think it was at the beginning of September-ish or something like that, 4 to 5 months is going to come into effect. right?
Okay.
So what we want to take a look at, and I've always been telling customers of ours, they're always asking, Jeff, so what's going on? Because this is one of the services that Stikkum actually is watching, right? Stikkum is watching this, and they're notifying me if one of my past customers happens to get their credit pulled. What this gives me the opportunity to do is I need a solution and service like this because I have to protect my back against an EPO, right? I want to know when my customers are shopping. And then the positive side is I would definitely like to know and need to know when somebody has the opportunity that I can help them, support them from additional business. Now, for the law and the trigger bill is if you are the loan originator on this loan and a lender of self like this, you still have access to this data and information. So from a Stikkum perspective, we've always resided on the retention side of those. We've never really sold this at all to any of those that were basically open marketing to cold prospects. So from our perspective there, our clients have always asked us, hey, how is this affecting you? Hey, can I still use your services tomorrow? Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Now, there are certain things to look out for, okay? That doesn't mean that just because you're not even using Stikkum or a service like us before, you can't start. Again, if you are the loan originator on a loan, you have to have the opportunity to protect yourself from an EPO. You'd want to use as much tools and resources and data that you can, and this is a critical piece of information and critical piece of data that you have the opportunity to gain, and you should be utilizing it. Because what I tell customers today is, guess who will be? All right? All the big institutions are using this information and data, okay? All the big banks, all the retail institutions, all the servicers, okay? If you're a bank and a lender, if you're a bank themselves, that's another one, right? If they have a relationship period with you, whether it be a checking account or something like that, and a credit union, you can have access to the trigger information, even though maybe you might have not facilitated that loan itself from a mortgage perspective. All of those institutions are going to be using this information now. All the trigger bill has done now is, quite frankly, scrape away all the clutter for them. Right? They've got access to this information. Now they got a lot less competitors that will have access to this same data because they know their road is clear because now the law has done away with the access to those who are cold prospecting it. Servicers is another key thing. So good conversation I was having with a customer just a week and a half ago. It's like, you know what, let me talk about this, Jeff. And he actually brought this interesting light to this conversation. He's like, you know what, I'm looking at this, and one of the carve out is servicers. Obviously it makes sense, but you know what, Jeff, what's interesting to me? It's interesting to me that Mr. Cooper was bought by Rocket. I was like, isn't that interesting? Mr. Cooper is one of the largest, if not the largest servicer in the country, servicing loans not just from Rocket, but for a lot of institutions out there, right? Mr. Cooper might not be calling, but guess what? Now being owned by Rocket, that's a potential opportunity that Rocket Mortgage now can execute on. So
Rocket's very good at putting a moat around their business.
They're putting a moat around their business, and it's not just their own business. Now they have a way to really penetrate everybody else's business too. Because maybe not Rocket Mortgage, but maybe Mr. Cooper, the servicer themselves. And then where's Mr. Cooper now going to refer any loan origination opportunities to? The big brother Rocket, right? So it's what did this customer say? He's like, man, Jeff, I see this sometimes now as almost a separation of the classes. Is one thing this trigger bill was to kind of clear the clutter for bad abusive purposes now. It kept those big institutions in a wonderful spot, but at the meantime, everybody else right there has now been basically stripped away with that power to utilize services like this. Unless you got a service, unless you partner with somebody like Stikkum. That's what we've built our platform to do, and our service to do is basically bring those levels of technologies down to the individual LO purposes so they now can compete on equal ground, with organizations like Rocket and a lot of the institutions and the banks themselves, right?
Hey, John here, not trying to sell you anything, coming at you with a bunch of hot commission breath. But what this is an FYI, letting you know that we do have a community where we have shared hundreds of posts, hundreds of sales scripts, techniques, tactics, different things to help you grow your business and maximize your 1,440 minutes every day. I'm not sure if it's for you, but it definitely could be for you. So go in there and check it out. CEO1440.com will take you to a place. You can join our free group, give it a sniff test. If you like it, awesome. We've got a lot of other things. We probably would like to sell you something. But right now, that's our gift to you. Get in there, check it out. CEO1440 will take you to a place where you can sign up to be part of our free group. Enjoy the rest of the show. Let me just kind of, for everybody that's here, let me just kind of tell you what we're doing with Stikkum, because right, Jeff's moving forward. So what we've done, we went out, right, we've got a small little brokerage, don't have a massive tech team, don't have time to go out and pierce through data and do a bunch of stuff. So we were looking for a easy solution to put in place to where we could just upload our closed clients, give them a file, upload our closed clients, and we wanted to be notified now as rates are coming down. It maybe didn't matter when rates were in the 7s, but rates are starting to come down. We probably can't touch everybody. We're going to have some things fall through the cracks. So we were looking for a solution. Came across Stikkum and said, at that price point, just to get in the game, it's wide open to every single person. So just the monthly fee that Stikkum charges, I'm not going to say it here, just it's really low. You spend more at Starbucks. So you've got the monthly fee that's charged, and then everything on top of there is a la carte. If you want credit, you can get that. If you want to know about your client getting engaged, you can get that. So everything's a la carte, which makes it for a small broker, a small little shop, very doable. And I've been through the onboarding process. So we've got our clients in there. We've got our closed clients in there. The database is broken out by state. And we can determine what we want on the clients in Ohio, maybe a little bit different. And then every morning we get notifications of who did what, and it's handled all by them. So that's what we're using it for. And I've been doing this since we've been doing it now. We've had great conversations with clients, probably some deals that we would not have even known about. And they're doing this all behind the scenes for us. And it's super easy. So that's kind of what they do. And there'll be someplace on here, a little landing page where you can go and get more details. And who knows, we might dive in a little bit more, but a super cool service. If you're not a behemoth with a tech team of 100 people to do all this for you, they become your pseudo tech team on the back end. And right, you only pay as you use it.
Yep, that's right, John.
So I think that it's just been a cool service. And there's even another golden nugget that when I signed up, I didn't even know about. There's a whole marketing campaign inside of there where you can email your, like, it does a lot of stuff that's well worth the monthly fee just in and of itself for that. But we're going to say keep that on the down low. Otherwise, they might change prices. So super, super cool there. You touched on a bunch of things. And, often you see, servicers are a massive carve out. All these things inside of this bill. And, with anything, it's a double-edged sword. There's always going to be kind of a winner and a loser. And really inside of here, credit triggers aren't going away.
No.
It's just going away. It's just limiting who can and can't have them.
Yep.
It's kind of like the haves and have-nots.
That's it, exactly.
So if you live inside of the castle, right, and you're going to have essentially the same access that you ever had. Is that correct?
Yep.
So for a Mr. Cooper, nothing really changes.
No, nothing really changes. And in fact, this basically has now just been reset back to where it was and where it always was about 6+ years ago. I mean, credit triggers have been around for the longest time. They've been there for the longest time. A long time ago, you had to have what they term permissible purpose, right? You had to have a really valid reason why I would need to have this level of monitoring, this level of data on this person, notifying us when their credit trigger behavior happened like that, right? They just didn't give it out to everybody. It just wasn't until probably around 2023 that the floodgates opened. So when we talk about market correction, this was kind of just like a legislative correction is what happened. It went back now to where permissible purpose is now really the rule of law back again. Okay, again, so that now if you're the lender or the originator, you're a servicer, if you're a bank or credit union, and the fourth carve out was, again, if you got an opt-in. Okay, now it comes back to those exclusive permissible purposes when somebody now has the opportunity to have this. Now, it is very key because when moves like the winners, like for instance, I mentioned before, a lot of the large institutions, Rocket Mortgage, the servicers like Mr. Cooper, bought by Rocket Mortgage, they knew all of this was going to be happening. And they knew a lot of those competitions, that clutter and those purchased prospect leads were going to be scraped clean, gone away, and they're going to be left by themselves. And they're hoping that the smaller communities, the SMB organizations, small to mid-sized businesses in the mortgage, would just be in a tailspin, would not know what's going on, and not know where to go get these same type of services and data intelligence like they do. That's what they're banking on, right? So now take away all the additional services on the prospect side, clears the ways from them. They're bolstering their portfolio of services like Rocket did with Mr. Cooper, now getting into servicing. And they really have, on a way, they're wanting to have a monopolization on this type of data, right? That now the law restricts so many others from getting it. Everybody now, if you are the loan originator, can access this information. It's imperative that you do. Of course, some of the conversation I have with customers is, you know what, this is why it's important. Until the day you do not have to take the burden of an EPO, right? You need to protect yourself, and you need to be allotted the services and technologies and tools so that you can protect your income. You can protect the hard-earned efforts that you've done, right? Because you know, John, as well in the mortgage space right there, all this effort, all this time, all this expense, all this consultation does have a cost, right? But until that loan closes, the mortgage provider, the loan originator, doesn't get paid on that, right?
Right.
Then they finally get paid on after that long-winded work, but then they still have to watch their back. Heavens forbid, something happens with that loan that they change certain directions after a period of time, that could all be taken away. Is that fair? Not fair necessarily. They need to balance that out with technologies like this or data like this, right? So the big guys know it. Rocket knows that, right? They're taking steps ahead of time, and now the SMB market needs to absolutely do this. Number one, to protect their back. Of course, number two, those same folks right there should always be working from a relationship purposes. Talk to a good financial planner. Talk to a good investment a wealth manager. Talk to a person like that work with these institutions where although they're life insurance, but they're on investment basis. There is a metric that they go to, and I've got a couple of good friends that are in those spaces right there. Okay, they go through a 5-year time frame from the person walks in the door to the person that they're fully sufficient in what they do, and that sufficiency means, and I'll explain it in just a couple of minutes. But they look at every person like John. John is not one transaction. John is 10 to 12 transactions in a lifetime. That's what John is, right? In fact, that they'll come in and they'll cold call for the first 2.5 to 3 years, right? So all they're doing is cold calling to find new people, like maybe a new loan officer is, right? To get into new opportunities. After a while, that teeters to about 50-50 around the 2.5-year mark. When you hit that 5-year mark, okay, if you're like in family planning, wealth management, insurance like this, you're about 90-10, 90% customers, 10% prospecting. That's the model, right? What does that tell you? That means these folks are not transactional. They're not hustling after it. They're hustling after relationship that lasts years. You know what their biggest source of referrals is? Not a third party, their current customer base. Every week, I've sat in meetings with these folks. Every single week, they sit in their own team meetings, and one of the metrics is how many referrals, how many names have you gotten out of your current customers, right? Sisters, uncles, aunts, best friends, brother-in-laws that they can now help and support and grow business. I often hear a lot of times nowadays, like, you know what? Hey, I'm really from our customers. I'm trying to get more real estate agents. I'm trying to get more XYZ. I'm branching out into CPAs. Wonderful, but you're missing the one giant referral base right in front of you is your current customers, right? That is a gem. I have some of our customers, they make about 45% of their actual business comes from their own customers. One, an additional business of the same customers, but two, referrals from that customer base. They mine them constantly, provide value constantly. They're in front of them constantly, and then they protect them like crazy, right? Technology is waiting. If someone is trying to nab that customer and steal the customer away, they know it. They know it because they have the technologies in place. Better yet, though, they also put technologies not on the back end to save a customer. They're using technology now to actually be ahead of the entire competitive scope when someone gets into the process to say, you know what, I want to find out when John's even thinking mortgage. I want to see you manifest and utilize and find the behaviors that John is exempling to basically says that he might be looking for education on mortgage, on housing. And last but not least, and this is kind of the tip from the other populations that are dealing with these same consumers, right? Like real estate and insurance and whatnot. What are the different life events that, whether it be directly or indirectly, change human behavior? Right? I'm a single guy, I get married. I'm gonna physically have to change my behavior. I'm gonna physically have to change. We have a kid now.
Right.
I'm gonna change. I can't just go about tomorrow the very same way. No, I'm gonna have to change my behavior, plan, and strategically, physically take different steps than I did yesterday. Those are the different things that are happening out there. Like we talked about, data is available. We talked about data available being on the back end from protecting ourselves when a credit gets pulled. But the same level of data is available, and the same level of intelligence telling the loan officer today what's happening with their population is available on the front end, right? Can you know when your customers are browsing the web? Do you know when they're thinking about, and actually not just thinking, but doing things to learn about mortgage? You absolutely can know about that. Absolutely. What do you and the question I asked it, what do you think that's going to do for your ability to send, to market to them, to communicate? You know, life change happens. How about being top of mind, in front, supportive in the areas like those, like this, keeping you there so that now you can be present. It's all about being present and all about being timely. That's really what the new, I would say, 21st to almost 22nd century marketing and business development is being present and being timely, and last but not least is being relevant.
Hey, John here. If you're anything like me, you like to get in, poke around, you like to check things out before you go diving in head deep. We've got a group where you can do that very thing. CEO1440 is a community. We post in there all the time. There's hundreds of different people, a lot of different conversations, and things that you may be able to take away and apply into your business. Now, the guarantee, I can't make you any guarantees. It's not going to 5X your business, but what it might do, it could 5X your business, probably will give you some things that you can tangibly take away and start applying in your business every single day. Everything we post may not be for you, but it definitely could be for you. So check it out. The group's free. Would love to see you in there. CEO1440.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, I think that all of those things that you said, and right, we mentioned that, right, I'm here in the Metro Detroit area, and right, we mentioned that big red machine that's down there, but they've done a lot of very strategic things, right? They bought, I don't know what it was, Credit Karma or whatever it was called, Truebill, that I think became Rocket Money.
Yep.
Right, whatever it was. And they're monitoring, right? Kids get out of college and they begin monitoring their credit, showing them subscriptions that they're not paying off. Because that's really the start of the funnel, is building credit is the start of the mortgage funnel. It happens somewhere 18 to 25,
yep.
Right? That's when you can begin to determine who's going to be your next client. And you have lifetime value, right? What is the lifetime value of somebody? There was a really interesting study that I read, and I don't know if it was NAR or National Builders Association. Somebody did a large cohort back in 1979. These numbers may kind of blow you away, but back in 1979, they took a group of, I think it was 16 to 22-year-olds, men, women, you know, Asian, like everybody, right? There's a wide cohort. It wasn't like all white dudes. It was like just a very good sampling of the U.S. population, right? The people that are here. And they looked at them from then until 2016. And you'll be blown away at the number of people. Just out of curiosity, what do you think of that cohort? What percentage do you think ended up owning a home at some point between 1979 and 2016?
Oh gosh, I would say 80%.
It was 90.05, so a little over 90%. So if you go back and say of seniors that graduate from high school, let's just say, over the next 30 years, 90% of them are a prospect that are going to end up owning a home. The real question isn't whether they end up owning a home or not. It's who do they use, why not you, right? So like more or less everybody is a lead.
Yep.
Because at some point over their life, they're going to get this. Now it's like, what kind of data can I have? And this, right, I'm sure that the numbers are higher amongst kids that graduate from college. Probably home ownership rates are lower than people that don't.
Yep.
Or higher.
You know,
my guess is people that live in more rural areas probably purchase more homes, just because home ownership rates in large cities, there's more renters. Like there's probably some carve outs you can do, but to think that 9 out of 10, even if it's 8 out of 10, people are leads. There's not a lack of leads.
You know,
there's a lack of ability to convert those leads.
Yeah, no, 100%, John. Here's the thing to think about too. Now, take that 90.5% that says it's going to have a home, and There's another study that I heard about, and I think there's maybe a few of them out there, that from the time that someone owns their first home to the time that they retire or they're in their forever home or whatever, if there are 12 to 13 transactions guaranteed that are going to be happening. Buying a new home, refinances, right? HELOCs, all these transactions are going to happen from that one customer, right? Over their lifetime. So you take that 90%, that 90 whatever percentage, and now multiply that, compound that by X amount of transactions for every one of them in their lifetime, right? I know from us, my own personal experience with this, me and my wife, we got married and we got a condo, right? It's nice, small. We didn't have a family like this. After that, we refinanced that because it was a really great time to do this. I think our first mortgage was 8.125. So we stayed there for about a couple of years, refinanced it a couple of times. So already that's 3 transactions there. Decided that we want to start to have a family. So we moved to a different house, smaller house, started a home, but in a home with some land and everything else like this. Went there. The market kept getting better and like this. Well, great. We probably refinanced that probably another 1 or 2 times. And we were there for like 6 years, right? Did that there as well too. Moved again to another house, right? And was in that house for the next 5 or 10 years or stuff like this, right? So right in there, we were probably just myself. I can probably name at least 8 different transactions.
Yeah.
I was not followed up with once. Maybe in the early on, because I had one mortgage, my lender, that we used for 2 or 3 of the initial transactions, but past that, all missed out on.
Well, it became very, I've worked at a lot of call centers in different places. That data going back 10 years ago, it was hard to get. It was hard to mine out. It was hard to get CRMs to do things. There was a barrier of entry that allowed the big people to be big because they made it over that hurdle. It's the same, I got started in mortgages back in the late 90s. Bill and Monica were in office and they were doing their thing, right? Like we had Y2K, and then you started to have CRMs come online, right? It went from your Palm Pilot to a CRM. And it was easier to do outreach and it was easier to do things. But even back then, we went through the licensing thing. And I remember hearing, right, Dan Gilbert, who's the founder of Rocket, he was talking about licensing. And he wanted it actually to become harder for the licensing. Right? Because it was they had figured out how to get licensed in all 50 states. There wasn't a lot of people that could do that. So they had got over that hurdle. And so the longer it was difficult for other people to grow, right? That licensing put a moat around the business of the people that knew how to do it.
That's right.
And CRMs, right? As data became, if you had the data and it was hard to get and you were smart and had the resources, you could use that as a moat. And it keeps there's a new one today, right? It's AI, it's all these different things. And the companies that can take advantage of that will figure out how to take market share, add more value to their clients. Or if you're just a little person, you've got to figure out how do you prioritize your 1,440 minutes to set aside some part of your day to go out. You probably can't expect to compete against some of these behemoths and win. But what you can do, you can't win the war, but you can definitely win the battle for your local market or for your handful of clients. And so you can win battles. You're never going to win the war. You're just going to win your battles. And I think small little carve-outs, there's going to be a lot of small brokers that figure out how to be the best in a 6-county radius. And I think it's exciting.
One thing to think about too is, we're talking about the competitive market. It's amazing how such giant houses like Rocket and whatnot, and I'm not going to badmouth them. They're just who they are, right? They're a contender in the marketplace, but they're fighting in the same battlefield as the individual loan officer in their own little county. And they're forced to go head to head, right? And that's what these big houses are counting on, so that they're. Now, here's the thing that they have, right? They've got money. They've got cash. They can just outspend the market, right? There's no small to mid-sized business mortgage loan officer outfit out there today that's making and paying for Super Bowl ads. You just do not have the money to do that, right? So today, like we talked about, back in the 90s, and I was around there when we had spreadsheets moving to like semantic act and all of those things, right? They're just installed in a computer. Now everything's in the cloud and stuff like this, right? It's the same premise. Those who take advantage of the opportunity and the tools and technologies will, one, be able to keep up, and two, get ahead, even against the largest of competitors in the market, okay? But marketing has changed. Outreach to your customers and prospects have changed. What CRMs did, it giving you the ability to organize it, gives you the ability to execute in scale, right? So great, I can organize, I can find a list of a bunch of people, and I can actually send out 1,000 emails. I can do that, right? Versus I would only can do 20 a day or whatever from a snail mail perspective, and I can do it in an organized manner, right? But that's already still past tense, but still relevant today. AI is coming, making the functional type of things that we do even easier, taking over a lot of that stuff, okay? But now what you're starting to see here, which is inclusive of AI, but AI is one that's a perfect example. When ChatGPT came out, remember, there was always this disclaimer, right? Fact checking. Why? When it came out, it was only as good as the data, the knowledge and information in its brain. And the disclaimer was that this was only as good because the information within the original ChatGPT, it wasn't connected directly to the web yet, was updated up until I think October of 2021. Anything beyond that, newer than that, it's a little bit varies, but it's only up to 2021. Now, that's just an example, okay? But put it on the parking lot just for a second. The number one thing I'll tell you about AI, it's only as good as the knowledge you feed it. It's astoundingly phenomenal, the more knowledge, especially relevant knowledge, you can feed it. Put that on hold for right now. Now let's talk about the technologies like CRMs, wonderful CRMs out there, further automating our lives. When we talk about outbound outreach, whether it be to customers or to clients and whatnot, it's always been fantastic. I got something now that can facilitate a spray and pray. Let me just blast everything. Let me blast everything to everybody. I better have the numbers, okay? Because I don't know where they're going. I don't know who's relevant to it. I don't even know if John's caring about this today, but John's in one of 1,000 folks. I'm going to send it all out to John. I hope to do that. Lo and behold, that's what Rocket and all them do with their commercials, okay? We're going to hit 18 million. They know they're not going to get all 18 million right then and there, right? But our loan officers, our customers, small and mid-sized business, they don't have the money to do what Rocket does to allow for the fallout of waste. So you got to be very relevant and very, very strategic and deliberate with your messaging, with your outreach, okay? And you need to say, you know what, I'm going to go send something out there, but I want to make sure it's going right to the population that's going to be relevant for it, and even better, if I can know that this population that I've chosen here, not even out of the 100 people, man, this message, because of the content in there, should go to these 50. But you know what, not even these 50. I want it to be staged for these 50, but sent to the 20 right now that are thinking about it right now. You get that through data intelligence, behavior intelligence, and that's where now mapping the actual humanoid behavior that's happening out there with the technologies that you're waiting to execute, and if you can map that together and execute on that, you're not only sending the right message to the right person, but you're sending it at the right time.
Hey, if you're listening to this, quick reminder, we have a free group, CEO1440.com. Jump in there. Tons of posts, tons of information, a lot of stuff we're bringing day in, day out to help you do more with your 1,440 minutes every single day. CEO1440.com. Check it out. Yeah, and the execution on that's where, like, right. And I just say today, like, everything is AI. Google is AI. Like, if you're doing anything with your phone or a computer, right, it's all AI. It's not,
100%.
There's not, Jimmy's not in the back end, moving buttons around. So it's, I think it's just neat, and you have to just embrace it for what it is. My belief, it's there, and the execution piece, fulfillment will become very easy. The execution used to be difficult. The execution piece is now really easy. I did something the other day just to see. I just opened up. I had like a couple of spreadsheets, and like when you run pivot tables, right? You can do or not pivot tables, like VLOOKUPs, like a VLOOKUP. Like I gave it 3 spreadsheets, and I said, pull all of this in to one spreadsheet based on email. And I just wanted to see, like, it grabbed all three separate ones and did it right. I would have had to put them in there, format the cells. Like, I could have done it. I know how, but it did it in a matter of milliseconds and just spit out. Did you want it in one sheet? Like, the execution was just flawless. I went in, double checked it. I'm not sure if it's right, but it looked pretty dang right. So I think that's really cool. Well, let's, yeah, I mean, I think that the next couple of years is going to be very exciting for the people that are embracing where things are going. I got a question for you, and we talked about the trigger bill. We got off of it a little bit. What happens? So in the past, I had always said your client never had to get credit triggers. If you allowed your client to get a credit trigger, it was your own fault. And we would pre-screen opt-out clients on, right? Like, hey, great to talk to you. Are you making an offer today? No. Okay, let's pre-screen opt you out before we pull credit. We had a whole process.
Yep.
And it worked great. What happens with the new credit trigger bill and the pre-screen opt-outs? Does it even matter anymore? Like, is there still a reason to do a pre-screen opt-out for my client, or is it just noise?
Yep. Okay, so great question, John. And this is a question that's come up probably once a week over here from the opt-out pre-screen process. Now, think about the reason behind why we wanted to put that in place, especially in the last 3 years, right? Because our customers are getting bombarded. They're getting bombarded 60, 70 texts within the next half an hour, right? So we had a process in place. We had a tool that was in place today, right? I said, yeah, you know what? Let's get you signed up, Jeff, for this pre-screen opt-out process, all right? This is what's going to happen. This is to avoid cluster of confusion and chaos that's about to come, okay? Great and wonderful. It worked, okay? Now, the opt-out pre-screen process puts it kind of like on a DNC, do not call type of thing, but it sets that flag at the carrier, at the credit bureau level. That means no one is going to get this trigger pull anymore. Now, when they're getting all the abusive actions of what the cold prospectors were using triggers for, that was we have protection of our customers, and that's what we had in place today. Now, the trigger bill comes and says, you know what, opt-out pre-screen, as much as you think you can do and the effort you do, we're going to do this even better. We're going to make it outlaw that you can't take and buy cold prospecting lists and cold triggers and just blast everybody. We'll take care of that for you. That's what that bill did. So then now there's John here, the loan officer, is like, well, this is fantastic. So that means when I pull credit, will I get as many of those crazy people call my customer anymore once the law is in place? No, because they won't have access to that. Okay, the second question, well then, what do I do with my opt-out pre-screen process? So if I execute the opt-out pre-screen process, right, I'm the loan originator on this loan. One, tangibly, right now at the transaction level, so maybe Jeff might not get this, credit pull or anything else like this, and won't get spammed, that's fine. But what that does, since it's at the credit bureau level, it knocks out everybody. So here's loan officer John, that is the originator on the loan, who is part of the carve-out that now should be able to get the trigger bill. And maybe he has a service like Stikkum or some other service that says, you know what, John, we can watch your back, because if one of your customers comes into play here, we'll be able to find it for you, okay? We'll be able to notify you when someone else is pulling their trigger. Should they want to refi? Should they do something with it? If that opt-out pre-screen is in place, that will take effect, and not even John will get that credit trigger anymore. So the original purpose, the purpose, especially as of late, right, that we were utilizing, that our customers were utilizing the opt-out pre-screen process, that has now become obsolete, or will become obsolete as soon as the trigger bill comes into play. And thus the only people that would lose on that standpoint would be the originator themselves, because they now will not have a functioning capability of getting the triggers that they're now allotted to get.
Hey, I want to get a quick message to you here about adding value. And our industry is terrible at telling you, do this, do that. So many people want to add value to you, but value is not in what I give. It's what you receive and whether it makes sense for you or not. We've got a community, CEO1440, where we post every single day, lots of things, sales scripts, a whole plethora of things. So I don't know what particular things are going to add value to you. They probably all won't, but definitely some of them will. The community is free. Would love for you to get in there, sniff around, poke around, and maybe there's more stuff we can do. But I know it starts because if you're anything like me, you like to get in there, check things out on your own before you go and sign up for some large commitment. So get in there, check out our group. I bet that there's something in there and there's little things that you can do that had you known 6 months ago, you'd be making more money today. Join the group. Look forward to seeing you in there. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show. So I'm a little confused. just kind of like they will or will not. If I am right, so the carve outs are servicer, loan originator, banking, banks, credit unions, and anybody that's opted in.
Yep.
So let's say I call my own closed client, right?
Yep.
I call them and I'm trying to do a mortgage for them. I want to refinance them. Right now today, I was the original originator, so I would be getting the trigger anyways. But so would their servicer, so would their credit union would find out, right? They'd get, and they could solicit them for a mortgage, and anybody that they'd opted into would also be getting that. With the new bill, if I still have them complete the opt-out process, nobody gets that. The servicer doesn't, the bank, nobody gets it. So it would behoove me as an originator to still go through the opt-out process. I'm going to eliminate the Mr. Cooper of the world or their credit union that they have a checking account with. I'm going to eliminate everybody from getting that by still doing that process.
Including yourself.
I don't care. I'm pulling the credit. I'm triggering it myself, so I don't care.
So that's what. So the thing I would tell customers is, if you can guarantee 100% of your current and past customers are going to come to you for that mortgage, that next refinance, during that EPO time or after that EPO, if you can guarantee 100% of the time, absolutely, you don't need it. Okay, but if you can't guarantee that, and if you think the dominance of Rocket Mortgage and their commercialization might entice Jeff to say, you know what, I'll go ahead and fill this thing out. Other competitive loan officers and brokers might be wanting my business, getting referred to me and stuff like that at any given time. The market shakes up and all of a sudden there's a dip in the rates and I might get enticed to do that. If you can't guarantee 100% of that stuff, I would beware. I would want every piece of technology available for me. You're eligible because of the carve out, but what you don't want to have now is the technology barrier of the opt-out pre-screen. Okay, remember that was there to protect our customers from the spammers, right?
Yeah,
the law will remove the spammers. What I would want to do is, you know what? I would still need to have, and I would want all of that information and data available to me. And if I got the technologies to get it, I want it. I'm just not battling 20, 30, 80 different competitors. I can go into a marketplace and fine, if that's a service, that's fine. Let's do it, right? If I got a handful, I will win, right? I just don't want to fight 50. The law will get rid of 50, right?
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, right? It's an interesting thing. Where do I get? I can see the argument both ways.
You know, here's one thing
I may
I'll
still be
tell from
inclined
to the loan officers too, is okay. But remember, think about this. Who has the natural day-to-day operation and exposure? Okay, most of the loan officers we talk to, and even customers of ours, you know, I'm the customer of John. John's not going to be talking to me. I'm not going to necessarily see John, interacting with John on an every day, every week, every month perspective, because I did a loan with John. Thank you very much, and it's, you know, then and done, even though it's 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 2 years ago, right? So out of sight is out of mind. So who would want the loan officers not to have this information, even if they purposely not have it? Well, guess what? Servicers are in front of our customers every single month, right?
Yeah.
Think about the banks as well too. I might not have a mortgage with you, but I got a checking account with this bank. I get so much messaging from them about mortgages, but I got a car loan with them. I've got a couple checking accounts, maybe a money market with them. Guess what? There are a lot of this information too, but guess what? If they don't get that trigger bill because it's opt-out pre-screen, they're in front of me constantly. So what I would say to the mortgage loan officer is, guys, that's what you're going up against as well, right?
Yeah, we've got some cool things that we put, our clients are receiving 4 to 6 emails a month.
Fantastic.
Through different tracking things. What's your value of your home? Here's some renovation, right? Like, we're in front of them. So it's right. It's a teeter-totter. Can I stay in front of them and be known enough that when they come back through, but like it's something I hadn't really even thought about it. I kind of just thought that it was going away. I now see a reason why you might want to still encourage your clients to pre-screen opt-out. The servicer is still going to get notification when the payoff comes through.
Yep.
So they'll still get a payoff trigger. They can still wait 14 days to deliver it, can still do all of their shenanigans on the back end. Either way, but again, that's neat. And what happens with this? So let's say, am I carved out, if I was the originator on a loan in 2020, and they've now refinanced 4 times, it was 4 loans ago, am I still carved out as an originator if I've just ever done a loan for them?
That's a good question. That's a good question. It's I think by the letter of the law is if you are the originator on the current loan. Now, that being said, there is still a lot of gray area of how the heck they're going to police this, right?
Well, how would I even know?
That's exactly it, John. That's exactly it, right? How are they going to police it? How they're going to administrate it? How are they going to manage this as far as who is on that current loan and who is not on that current loan? And then if that means that you're maybe, like you said, they refinanced 4 times in between the last time that you did that first transaction, how are you notified of all of a sudden you're not that person on that loan anymore or whatnot, so that you're not eligible at that point, right? If that's how they're reading the law. So just like even the trigger bill when it first came into actually conception, okay, how is it going to end up looking like? Well, now that the law is there, it's written out with some carve outs, but then now the big thing is how are they going to police it, right? That's still up there. That's a fantastic question, right?
It's, I mean, with all these things, right, it will go through. Certain parts will be adopted and, right, like will be enforced, and other parts, other parts will just kind of slide by.
I think the spirit, people have to kind of think about the spirit of the law as well, okay? The spirit of the law is to protect relationships. I mean, that's the spirit of the law, right? Cold spamming, right? That's really why this really was brought to legislation in the first place, why it's put in there so that in protection of the consumer, they're not getting just bombarded with so many of these elicitations, from anonymous folks right there. But likewise too, why there is carve outs, because it's recognized of relationships that are there, that are quality, that have been proven successful already, have added and consumed value, right? That where the customer says, wow, this is one, not just protection for the loan officer on an EPO, no, but extension of relationships, right? That's really the spirit of the law, right? And so
for sure.
That's kind of where I always take a look at that, and then I just kind of see where things kind of roll out, right? How we have that, how they get. Again, trigger bill is a great example. Abolish everything. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
There are relationships that need to be protected. There's effort to the relationships that the loan officer put in place, right? From an EPO, they need to be protected. The banks didn't have to do a mortgage. But they're part of the carve out. That is a bold one saying you've got a relationship. You have the opportunity to protect your relationship, guard against another bank opening a crack in the door, right? Or a new opportunity. So you look at it in some, and you can say, take a step back and say, okay, I think the spirit of it is to protect valid and valuable relationships, right? That's protection from a consumer perspective, right?
For
and
sure.
now, how do they administer and facilitate that execution? That's always going to be the big question.
Yeah, I think time will tell. Super interesting. We've got just a few minutes here. I like to keep these, relatively short. People get bored of listening to me talk. Just one thing that I want to highlight here really quickly. So, I mentioned before kind of how we're using it on the back end is just something, and just if you can just touch on this really quickly, you've built a whole, you're doing this data collection and telling me when somebody gets engaged or they're married or they're filing for a divorce, right? You've got all these signals, right? I like to say there's signals and then there's just noise, which is just a lot of stuff. I feel like you've done a good job dialing in the signals, but you also have a pretty robust email campaign, right? Like just database management. I almost call it like a light CRM. Which it's just a really cool part of your program. Do a lot of people take advantage of that? Is that
we have quite a few. There's certain aspects of it, and our evolution was first and foremost, of course, our big part of the Stikkum platform right there is just like you said, just improving and giving the loan officer the opportunity to embrace the behavior intelligence that are out there, right? Know when the customer's credit is pulled, know when they're surfing the web and browsing or searching on Google for mortgages, right? Searching for homes on the websites and stuff. all the different life events that are happening within their day in, day out business, know about that so that the loan officer can now have that information right in hand, very timely, and now execute upon it. Execute upon it. That about 4 years was now a situation that one of our customers came up to and said, hey, Jeff, I love this because now I get and I know who's in the market, when they're in market, and exactly when and how I should go after them. Hey, can you help me out for a second here? I'm like, well, what do you need help with? He goes, how I need to execute on it. All these CRMs and everything else like this. I want to do all this, but I'm looking at 8 different systems. I'm looking at so much money like this. Stikkum's already executing communications to me, email and text and everything else. Their request, literally, John, was, can you just take that communication engine that sends notifications and alerts to me and flip it around and allow it to automatically outbound communications to these very same customers and contacts that I just received an alert and notification for? Yes. We didn't build anything new. We just repurposed the engine that Stikkum is. So as a light CRM, twofold, that's included in every one of our customers' accounts and everything else. Can they automatically, when they receive an alert, a notification for any one of our monitoring service, have an email go out? Can they have a text go out? Can they have a multi-touch campaign of emails and texts over a period of time go out automatically because they received an alert? Yes. So it has a very robust auto response to those type of things, automatically go out. So now, speed to lead. I get this opportunity. I'm going to be driving around town meeting customers. I'm hopefully going to find a phone call time to basically call John about the alert I got, but I don't have to worry because Stikkum already launched 2 emails for me just this morning to get John warmed up and say, I'm calling, and oh, by the way, Susan called me back from one of those already, right? That's the auto response. And then last but not least, if I got contacts in the system, I think you've already started working in your way to this, John, right? He goes, well, hey, just like I have with a lot of these other systems, if they're in the system, let's put aside automatically responding to notifications and alert, but what about staying in contact with them? What about sending mass emails? What about sending text? What about sending once a month campaign of just stay in touch type of information you traditionally see in a CRM? Can Stikkum do that? Yes. 100%. Emails, text, full-blown multi-touch campaigns, whether it be automatic response or mass communications and stuff like this, are all available within the system. All there provided for.
Yeah. I thought it was really neat, right? You go through it when we're onboarding, you go through things and you get to that point and my initial, right, oh, I already know it. No, I'm good. I don't need that. I have a CRM. And then to your credit, you're like, well, let's just look at it for a second. It's like, okay, like, well, I'll look at it. We went through there and we ended the call. And then, it was 11 o'clock or whatever at night and I'm dinking around like I do. And I like pop back in there and I'm like, oh, right. And I had to book another call. Yep. I'm like, hey, actually show me this. Like my boneheadedness told me I didn't need help, but I actually did. So here's what I would say. We've got to kind of wrap this up. I've got another thing coming up here, but if anybody's interested in this, I'll include a link someplace here. There's a setup fee that's typically one price. It's less if you go back through the link that we'll include here. These prices may change by the time, right? Like I don't want to say what their pricing is, but there's a link. Go on there, click. You'll see there's a little video of Jeff. There's a bunch of other things. Just a super cool tool. I like to share things that I actually believe in, that I use. It's not just some BS thing. And so far, I found this to be, like I said, we're using it. We're getting and seeing leads. We're seeing behavioral things. We're seeing when people are out shopping on the internet. We're reaching out to these clients. We're engaging with conversations that we would not have had, all as a result of, onboarding you. It was easy. So I wanted to share it with other people, but there'll be a link down here. Go check it out. Click the link. And if you're not doing anything like this, you're for sure losing business, or at least I can make the guarantee. If you're not losing business, this is not going to cost you business. You're not going to lose extra business as a result. It will only increase. And the price per month, like I said, it's pennies in comparison to anything else you're doing. For most people, it's the cost of a soft pull to get this put into your business. So, Jeff, I truly appreciate it. I think you guys have built a great program, a great product, and thanks for jumping on here today.
It's my pleasure, John. My pleasure.
Hey, one last question. If anybody wants, I'll put Jeff's socials and stuff in here as well. Where's the best place for them to get a hold of you, or just go through our link and do the book a demo?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. You know, so just one last note on a couple of things here that you've experienced, Johnny. You kind of mentioned in here. You know, technology is wonderful and everything else like this, but what you find out, and I think you found out, John, as well too, we pride ourselves on our service, right? And from a technology platform, our integration capabilities. On integration, we built the platform, Stikkum, with many other folks with respect that everybody has a lot of good tools. There's a lot of great technology out there. So our platform can integrate in and out of data elegantly with just about any platform through various methods, whether it be APIs, webhooks, Zapier and stuff. And we have a team there that's all they do all week long is sit on the phone, if not doing it with you, but are outright doing it for you. So that the configuration and technical parts of that service is number one for us. And then like you said, John, it's 7 days a week for us for our customers. So absolutely, if there's any questions or, hey, I just want to see what John was talking about, what you guys were talking about there, book a demo. Right there on the, go to the page that you have right there, John. There's a lot of good definition on there, but we love to talk with our customers. We love to collaborate with the folks that are interesting because that's how we further develop our platform, right? But that's just a small instance of what we really provide from a mom and pop, person-to-person type of service 7 days a week, just like our customers do for theirs.
Yeah, no, you are and will continue to help people win more deals. So, hey, I truly appreciate it. We're going to sign off. Thank you all for sticking around here. Truly appreciate all of you. Any questions for me ever, you know where to find me. Reach out. I don't bite. And thanks again, Jeff.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.